Welcome back to the Pursuit Podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a look at mentorship and preparing students to work in technology. Before we get started, I wanted to quickly thank our sponsors, Neximo. Neximo provides some really great communication-based development tools, including APIs for SMS, voice, and virtual phone numbers if you ever wanted to order a pizza overseas. Thanks, Neximo, for sponsoring us. I'm your host, Jessica Rose.
I'm here today with
Dr. Chao Mbogho from Kenya, and I am the program lead for KamiLimu, which is a mentorship program for computer science students.
So today we're going to be talking a bit about mentorship within technology, but also talking a little bit more about the program.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the program?
Yeah, so the program is for computer science students in universities in Kenya, and anyone who may not have a computer science background but has a passion in technology or connects their studying in technology. Those are the kinds of students that we take. And the program is currently in its third cohort, so it's a 6-month mentorship program that runs in Nairobi. And we have a 50-50 representation of male and female students because we'd like to keep the gender balance very balanced. So that is a priority for me. We have worked with so far 96 students who are all university students in technology, both diploma to postgraduate. And the current cohort has 36 mentees from 10 universities in Kenya and 13 peer mentors who are previous mentees, and they came back to serve as peer mentors. So in total, I have 49 students in the program.
Wow. So you've served 96 overall and you've got 46 right now. It sounds like a lot of work.
Well, it is, but I think what's interesting is the fact that we get really good students who, just by the fact that they've applied to the program and they are willing to commit to a 6-month, very intense mentorship program, is already a sign that they're looking for something else, something more than what they get in school. This kind of students who apply to the program end up being really, really dedicated, which makes the work very easy, because without their dedication, then it will be very difficult to make any impact. So that is one of our biggest factors, that we get students who really want to commit.
Could you tell me a little bit about what kind of skills they develop through this program?
So we focus on 4 things, and these 4 pillars came about from a survey I conducted with students right before I started the mentorship program. And it was this survey was to understand, what do computer science students actually look for when they want mentorship. And so I ran this survey, and people answered different things, from we need to learn how to prepare for interviews to how to write good essays for scholarships, or even just to find the scholarships themselves, because that's not obvious. And,
so really practical advice.
Yeah. So all this feedback, then I narrowed it down to 4 things. And the first is professional development. So students want to learn what is a good CV, how do you prepare for an interview, how does a tech interview look like, to the second thing, which is scholarship awareness and application. So it is not obvious that students know where to find scholarships or even how to find them. And even after that, how do they write award-winning scholarship essays and applications such that they really, have an edge over the other applicants. Then the third thing is community involvement, which we found that a good percentage of the students in tech may not necessarily be involved in the local tech community, as well as they don't necessarily give back to the community. It doesn't have to be tech community, but the social community. Then the fourth thing is innovation and ICT skills. So they learn IT in class, but then how do we use those ICT skills to help them solve socioeconomic problems, which is really important. And in addition to that, they don't necessarily learn all the skills they need in the classroom. So, for example, we have GitHub, which is used in the software industry, but not most schools actually teach that as a skill. And so we bridge that gap in that way.
So it sounds like you've taken a really practical, but really wide-reaching approach.
Yeah.
So you're helping support them with professional skills, so what they need to get that job.
Yeah.
Academic skills and scholarship. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then community involvement.
Yes.
Yeah, just so much.
And then now finally innovation and state skills. But so the good thing is I don't work alone. So far I've worked with 37 industry professionals. A lot of the people who facilitate some of the sessions are professionals in the industry who are already practicing what we're trying to teach and want to volunteer and want to give back to the education community. So I have worked with a number of professionals in different fields, from people who are actually mental health experts who conduct things like the sessions on mental health and stress management to yes.
You're running sessions on stress management and mental health for your mentees.
Yeah. It's part of personal development, because we find that it's fine to teach them all these skills, but they need to also really develop themselves as people. And so we have, what I didn't mention is the professional development actually is personal and professional, where we have things from public speaking. I have a facilitator who's a Toastmaster who does our public speaking sessions. So that really helps.
And you're helping train them in public speaking? Wow. I know you're based in Nairobi, but I just want you to run this all over the world. This sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so I work with a lot of very dedicated professionals who really give their time to the program. Some stay throughout all the cohorts. Some do just 1 or 2 sessions, but we get a lot of help from them. So an example in the community engagement is one of our new partners is Google. The women at Google Nairobi, they've partnered with us to run a mentorship, professional mentorship for the female students, where we have small breakout sessions with maybe 3 or so female students per woman at Google, where we conduct very personalized mentorship. And so we are testing this with them as a new model. And so that way we get the industry involved, and at the same time, the students actually get real feedback from people who are practicing the field. That way we are able to do all these things.
That's so exciting to hear. I know you've had almost 100 students come through your program, so it might be difficult to pick 1 or 2 examples, but can you tell us about what some of the students do after they leave your program, after they graduate?
Yeah, so I will give you both during and after, because even during we get a lot of impact stories. So for example,
wow.
Yeah, so I'll pick maybe 2, 3 examples. So the first is on the scholarship aspect. One of the things that I do, actually this is a session that I run myself, is to train students how to write good grant and scholarship applications. And from that, we have seen students who won international scholarships and awards. So for example, just recently, in fact, last month, one of our female students won the international scholarship to attend the Grace Hopper conference in the US in September. And that was from, what happens is when a student wants to apply for a scholarship, I review the applications with them and we go through all the essays. Normally the essays are the big thing because
they're really hard.
Yeah, is to write essays that would, make you shine. So I teach them how to do that, both in a session and also personalized sessions. So from that, we've seen quite some interesting output where students actually go ahead and win scholarships and awards. We also have students who have been taken for internship directly from the program. And we've had students who, through the skills they gain from professional development to preparing for interviews to writing good CVs, they have attributed that to them getting new jobs and also to getting a promotion. And one of the most interesting stories I've received from someone who was promoted at work is she has really started having the confidence to actually, ask for better pay, to negotiate her salary, to put her foot forward, because initially you find that a lot of the students are very shy and they don't want to raise their hand that who can apply for this role. And we find people come back and tell us how they have now the confidence to really put their foot forward. And from that, we have students who actually get promotions from it. So that's an example in the professional development aspect. And in community involvement, we already working with a lot of the communities around. So, for example, last year, we were part of the Africa Code Week. So we received a grant from Google for that. And our 21 mentees trained 110 students who are from an orphanage on digital skills. Currently, our students are training digital skills to 2 different institutions that are both based in Nairobi. So a lot of the impact we see during the 6 months of the program, and after that, it just becomes students maintaining that momentum that they got in the program.
Your students have made me feel so massively lazy. I think I just watched a bunch of cartoons when I was a uni student. It's so fantastic to hear that they're getting not just these incredible scholarship opportunities and landing them, but making these big professional strides, asking for more pay.
Yeah.
And what's really fantastic is giving back as part of this.
Yes, yeah, they do. And we have at least 30% of our students actually apply to be peer mentors. That's in addition to the giving back to the community, but they also come back and we get them to give back to the current mentees through moral and academic support. So that's another way that our students give back, apart from giving back to the community. And the giving back to the community is really popular among the students because they're always asking for where else can we go to give back. And so it also really motivates me to keep looking for institutions that are looking for student volunteers to teach digital skills. And every time I get that, the sign up, student sign up it's so overwhelming because everybody really wants to get involved in the community because it helps them learn as well.
So it sounds like this mentorship program is doing a lot of really fantastic things. Could you tell me a little bit about how the program first began and what it looked like back then?
So we started in September 2016, and this was purely out of requests that I received from students on various things. So different kinds of advice. How do I prepare for this interview, among other requests? And then I thought to myself that responding to one student at a time didn't quite have the kind of impact I wanted. And so out of impulse, I sent an email to all the students in the classes I was teaching at the time and asked them, does anyone need mentorship? I have some free hours during the week. If so, just let me know, then we organize something. So I didn't even have a structure then, I didn't have a plan. So I was expecting that we'd have, about 10 or so students responding, but in 2 days I had nearly 40 students responding to that request. That was the first sign that there's something students are looking for. I called for a meeting. All the 40 students who responded, I asked them to meet them on a Saturday morning because that's when they're free, and they all showed up.
Just to see how much they really wanted it.
Yeah.
Like if they show up on a Saturday, they're serious.
Yes, and just to understand what are you looking for. And they all showed up.
All 40?
Yeah. I remember it was in a random Saturday morning, and I went to this session with no plan. We were just going to talk about what exactly are you looking for when you wanted a mentorship. So we had this discussion, and I talked about my idea of a mentorship, and the students gave me feedback. So it is with this group of students that I then did the survey I mentioned earlier on what it is that they're looking for. And so that's basically how it started. There was no plan, there was no structure of where we were going, and that was how we started.
I love the idea that you started looking into this because you didn't really have time to answer individual questions. And then you wound up with this whole massive project.
Yeah, and it was really, I think also because I knew that there was something the students are looking for that they're not getting in the classroom. And that was my desire. That was really what sparked the desire of, okay, let's see what we can do for a group of students as opposed to individual students, because that was not really as impactful. It was from that need to do more than what we give students in the classroom.
So that's a really fantastic point I'd like to touch on a bit more. You mentioned that part of the need was that the students weren't getting everything they required just from their classes.
Yeah.
If you could be the boss of all universities and you say, you know what, I'm going to add these things to the university curriculum, what would you make everyone add? What would you make them or ask them to teach the students?
So the first fundamental thing will be critical and logical thinking, because we don't teach that as a skill, and ideally students have to learn that as they go along. But I feel like that is something we need, both not just in tech, but as a society. We need critical and logical thinking to be really given more priority than it is currently. So that's the first thing that will be part of, whether it is problem-based learning, but it will be part of the curriculum. The other thing will be problem solving, in the sense that it is not enough for students to learn IT skills, we need to teach them, okay, so you know Java, you know Python, you know all these cool ICT skills. Okay, what do you do with them? How do you look at your society and pick and identify a good problem, because that in itself is a different skill, how to identify a good problem, and then use the skills you have to actually solve that problem, and not just use the skills in a sort of like a closed space. That's why it's one of the most sought after 21st century skill, but it is something that is very important for our students. Then the other thing will be entrepreneurship, and not just to help students create their own entrepreneurship if that's the path they want to follow, but just to understand how businesses work. And in addition to that is financial and money management, because people have to learn that on their own. And I feel like that is something we need to teach, even if it's not for the entrepreneurship, but our relationship with money will probably be better if we were really taught, the value of money, finances, what is what, so that when you get into the real world, you understand how finances work. And not just for entrepreneurship, but generally even for your own personal life. Those are the three things I would definitely include, and what's missing now.
You sound like a woman who's seen a couple students do something silly with their first paycheck. Where you're just like, business skills for entrepreneurship, but also common sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I could just imagine you talking to folks about to get their first job where it's like, hey, let's be really reasonable with that first paycheck.
Yeah, and also it's just, because right now there's a lot of talk about investment and all that. And it's very interesting because even I wasn't taught that, because I did my undergraduate in Kenya and I wasn't taught all that. And so, I had to learn about things like what is even a mortgage? How does mortgaging work? You learn these things on your own, yet you're supposed to survive in the real world where people are talking about mortgages and how it's not, probably mortgages are not the best way to go. Maybe you should do X, Y, Z. So it's just the general life skills that I feel we are missing out. In addition to that, it's obviously now all these other things, problem solving, critical thinking, and all that.
So if we were talking to someone who was a student or a recent graduate, or maybe someone new in the industry, who doesn't have access to a mentorship program like yours, where would you recommend that they might look, or they might ask someone for help? How could they get some help on some of these fantastic skills that your students are training on?
Yeah. So one way is, and especially, for example, in Kenya, students who don't have access to structured mentorship, because the structure is probably what makes KamiLimu unique, because a mentorship program on its own, without a structure, it would be different from what we are doing. So if someone doesn't have access to a structured mentorship, one way would be to get really involved in the tech space. Fortunately, in Kenya, there's a lot of activity in the tech space. People really have tried to hold sessions and conferences and workshops that talk about different things, varying from sexual harassment in the workspace to leadership to pitching to all that. So one very good opportunity that Kenyan students have, or really any student anywhere in the world, would be to really get involved in the local tech space, because there's a lot of related content or related topics that people talk about in those spaces that may not necessarily happen at the university at all, actually. So that will be one direct way. And in that way, then you really find similar-minded people, or really a support system that you can then sort of use to just support your journey.
It's fantastic. So if you're not in a formal program, if you can't get support that way, get into the community through either events or workshops, and then just sort of make friends, get some peer mentorship.
Yeah, as well as, of course, learning. Because the good thing is, as we know now, there's a lot of resources online. Just keeping, apart from being part of the community, just keeping abreast with what's happening and continually improving your skills, which is really needed in the tech industry anyway. That will help a student who may not necessarily have access to a structured mentorship program in their school or in their community.
And if we were talking perhaps to a listener who's working in education or who's working in the industry, who wants to be a mentor, who wants to give a little bit back, what kind of advice would you have for them? Where can they start?
I would say first, identify what exactly you want to give back on. But I think the most important thing is find an institution that is willing to work with you, because we have come across a number of people who want to work with institutions to really create that, academia industry bridge and to help. But then, we find there all this bureaucracy and institutional politics and whatnot that then end up not supporting that effort. I'm only lucky because I'm already in academia, so I'm literally working from the inside out. If it's from the outside in, then it's the best thing will be to find an institution that's actually receptive and willing to support that. Because a lot of mentorship programs start and the dream is there, but the hard work is in maintaining it. And you find that sometimes that is not because of the individuals, but it's because of the environmental and institutional challenges that don't support that. So finding an institution that is really willing to work and to support that dream of giving back and to really see it to the end is really important.
I think that's one of the most diplomatic warnings I've ever heard about the red tape in academia.
Yeah, and then so that is now in the bigger picture, because I have met people who have the best intentions of wanting to give back to universities, maybe whether it's their own former universities or others, but then they get frustrated and that basically breaks that. Then the second thing will obviously find students who are actually willing to commit to it, because it's very easy to get excited about the concept of mentorship in the beginning and to get excited about this new thing. That's the easy part. The hard part is all the hard work that goes into it, and maintaining that excitement every day is really not a walk in the park. And so knowing that you're in it not just for a one-time session, because I always say that mentorship for me is not inviting someone to talk and then they go away. That's just a talk. Mentorship is more long-term. It's more long-term, and it has to happen every day, every week, every month, or whatever the duration is. So the commitment of you want to do this for not just once or twice, it should be there. Also, the other side, finding students who are actually willing and are dedicated to that journey is now the other part, because else, you'll be having all the energy, but then if you don't find the students who want to maintain that, then it becomes fruitless.
So you've got to find students willing not just to be excited about a new thing, but students who are excited enough to show up on a Saturday.
Yes, exactly.
But then you've got to show up on a Saturday.
Yes, to show up on
a Saturday.
And
you've got to keep showing up.
Yeah, and not just one Saturday. It has to be like something very, very continuous. And I think that's usually the hard part. The easy part is having that one-time event where we are all excited. The hard part is in maintaining that for the next 6 months.
Just walk away.
Yes. The hard part is in maintaining that for 6 months and asking people to show up every day and to do everything that they're being asked to do. That's the difficult part. Actually, on that, I would say that how we manage to maintain that, because we normally have at least 80% attendance on all our mentorship sessions.
Wow.
Yeah. On average.
These are some incredibly dedicated students.
Yeah. And then each month, the average attendance for each month is normally at least 90%. If you combine it all. So how we manage to do that is, first is obviously the students apply. So they don't just show up. The students apply to the program in the first place, and then they write 2 essays, which already throws them into the training of writing essays for applications. And then there's that selection process. But one thing that happens is I say that we have 40 students that we are accepting. But ideally, the number we usually work with is 35, because I usually give a room of 5. Normally, you find that people get new employment, people get new commitments, and they have to leave. So on average,
life changes.
Yes, 35 or so who really stay. Now, how we manage to do that is, one, there's a strict attendance rate. Students graduate from the program, you get a certificate and a personalized reference letter at the end. So for you to do that...
Oh, this sounds worth showing up for.
Yes, that is what happens. Like, there's actually an graduation, and
I was wondering how you did it.
Yeah, they get certificates and they get reference
I thought maybe you had really good snacks.
Well, there's that as well. And also we have a lot of fun in the program as well.
Oh, fabulous.
Other than that, there is a strict attendance rate. So we keep a very strict attendance tracking. The minimum that you need to have for you to graduate from the program is 70% attendance. So students are very keen on maintaining the attendance rate. And as a rule, if you're not attending a session, you have to send an apology. Again, just out of also to create that culture of being professional. And then I designed a point system. Where if you send an apology, you get 1 point to your attendance. And if you attend, then you get 7 points, which is the highest. And then different things have different points. So there's a point for sending an apology, which is 1. There's a point for attending a tech event outside there, which is 5. There's points for being part of the committee, but the highest attendance of actually being there is 7. So that way, at the end of each month, each student has a percentage that they can keep tracking and seeing how they're doing. And then lastly, for students who have low attendance, we ask their peer mentors to follow up on what's happening. Generally, it's a system that works because students are very keen. Like if they see even an anomaly on their attendance, for example, I marked no erroneously, someone will send an email and say, yeah, but I was there. So it seems to be working.
Just listening you describe the point system, tripped my anxiety. I was like, oh God, I have to go make up some points.
Yeah, and we are going into the 3rd month in the current cohort, and I've not seen anyone who doesn't attend a session and doesn't send an apology. It's fine because you can miss some, which is fine, but at least 70% should be completed.
This sounds like a fantastic way to inspire and terrify students.
So it seems to be working, and that way we keep our attendance, because there's no point of having the mentorship sessions if no one is going to show up. So yeah.
If our dear listener wanted to learn more about your program, where could they find more information about the program online?
So we have our website, KamiLimu.org, and it's actually just freshly updated, so people can see what we've been up to.
Oh, I'm going to check that out myself.
So KamiLimu.org, and you can see what we've been up to. You can see who our contributors are, all the professionals in the industry I talked about. You can see some of our achievements and our impact. We've been in the local media as well.
And if our dear listener was interested in hearing more about your work and what you're doing, is there any place for them to find you online?
Yes, so I am on Twitter at Chao_Mbogho, Mbogho. They can find me there. And through the website as well, we have a contact page, and that comes directly to our mentorship email. So those 2 ways, but I'm easily reachable on Twitter at Chao_Mbogho.
Just in case folks are really inspired, they're like, wow, I want to do more than just read about what you're doing. I want to do more than just follow you on Twitter. Is there any way they can contribute to the program?
Yes. So on the website, there is a link on Support Us, and that takes you to a contributors page. People can be able to contribute one is obviously contributing through financial donations, but we also welcome contributions through equipment, because as it is now, we share our space. Ideally, in the long term, we are looking at getting our own space, and we need obviously things like laptops and computers and projectors and whatnot. So that's another way. It doesn't have to be monetary. But right on our website, there is a link on Support Us just at the top, and that will take you to a page where you may contribute should you wish to do so. And you can do so from PayPal or any other way. But if you really want to contribute in kind, whether it is through facilitating a session or your skills or just sharing with us information and books that you think can benefit our students, they can always reach out through the contact form on the website, and that comes directly to our email, which we monitor all the time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for having me.
And thank you for listening. If you join us back on Thursday, we're going to be talking to Gloria Kimbwala and Amy Codes, looking at how to better negotiate a promotion, a salary rise, or the conditions for your next job.